Hey, this is Notser, and this is the Tier 8 Japanese cruiser Mogami. As far as my build, I really prefer just a standard Japanese cruiser build. Crit protection on main armament, accuracy improvement. It also helps the torpedoes traverse a little bit quicker, which is great on a Japanese cruiser, of course. Lower chance of flooded fire, faster rate of shift, and concealment. You will need to maneuver quickly, plus rely on great detectability to get into a position that you can really dominate the enemy. As far as skills are, priority target, expert marksman, adrenaline rush, superintendent, demolition expert, inertia fuse high explosive for 155mm, concealment, obviously on every cruiser. Inertia fuse is very important on the 155mm variant to cross a very critical threshold, which is the bow and stern armor of pretty much every single battleship you'll face. If you do not pick this skill up, you will shatter if you hit 32mm of armor, which is very prevalent on pretty much every battleship at this tier and the tiers above. If you're running with the 203s, I would not recommend taking inertia fuse high explosive. The 4 points are better spent somewhere else. There's just better skills that help you out. Perhaps vigilance. Maybe you could pick up the catapult fighter, the extra catapult fighter, maybe preventative maintenance. Those are just better skills on the 203 than inertia fuse. But on 155, oh baby, does it allow you to do a ton of damage. And hopefully we will see that on Islands of Ice. This is probably the worst possible matchmaking I could have gotten in my Tier 8 Japanese cruiser. We're in a Tier 10 match, and it's not a light Tier 10 match. Oh no, there's probably 3 to 4 per side. And of course, we have Tier 9s too, so we're bottom. We are all the way bottom of the barrel, plus there are 5 enemy battleships. So I've got to be very careful. AKA, don't fire unless only one enemy can engage you. That is my tip. The Mogami is very easy to kill, but it is sort of a glass cannon. It can kill everything. It doesn't matter the tier, it will dominate it. And we tried to fire at the gearing there. I was hiding behind the island a little bit, making sure to corner off everyone but the necessary target. And of course, enemy Mogami, who is rocking the 203s, fired at my direction. Now, some of you might say, 155 or 203s, Notser, which do you prefer? Oh, well, it's without a shadow of a doubt, the 155. If I wanted a 203 Tier 8 Japanese cruiser, I would just use the Atago. It has a heel. The 155, though, is a superior platform regardless of premium or non-premium. This will get you the most success among pretty much every Japanese cruiser except for probably the VIII, and that's only because it has a ridiculous fire chance and they're like laser beams, you know. This is really, really powerful. Even the VIII will not kill enemy destroyers as quickly as you can. So there's a little bit of trade-off. You know, VIII has better AP penetration with 203s. I've got far and above better DPS against destroyers. It's just no contest. Absolutely no contest. And quite frankly, they're more important than maybe getting AP on a cruiser, because let's face it, everyone can do that. There are so many battleships. Now, we, along with our friends, decided on a BC strat for this game. I went with the gearing. Gearing wasn't really interested in going in. I don't blame him. It looks like the enemy has also decided on a BC strat. So, as we recognize that, there is indeed danger, I sent my torpedoes towards the gearing, who popped smoke. Enemy tried to stay in the smoke, but clearly it didn't work out. There is a Des Moines close by, so I can't get too close. And I'm trying to fire only when I am behind an island or very, very far from the front. I do not, repeat, do not want to take any damage because it might be the only time I can take damage. It's that bad in the Mogami. It will get citadeled. It will get citadeled extremely hard, especially as the low tier. But that doesn't mean the enemy is fearless. We dish it to 6k on the mighty Montana, plus we cause a fire. And that's really the bread and butter. Stick with HE and light them up. Do a ton of damage. You're going to be shocked by how many 5 and 6k salvos this ship can do with 155s against destroyers, against cruisers, against battleships. It is relentless with its firepower. And this Montana's feeling the full force, along with my teammates, of course. But I don't really care about this. This is easy damage. We're not going to move forward. There is a possibility that there could be a destroyer out there. I am the primary weapon for it. And oh, yes, enemy Fletcher. Every time you have a chance to fire at a destroyer, fire at the destroyer. You will do so much damage to him. Again, so much damage to him. Almost 5k. You know, easy 5k. And then another salvo, another almost 5k. And would you look at that, he's basically dead. One more salvo from our gun will end his life. And every destroyer, doesn't matter the tier, is terrified of you. Now, I could continue to hold my fire. However, I would like to make sure that the Montana dies. You know, those battleships, they love to heal for a ton. So I'm going to assist my team in shooting the remainder of the Montana's health, with the knowledge that the Des Moines is in the area and he can fire on me. If I must, I will take a couple shots from him. We did set the Montana on fire. The Des Moines is firing his AP, which is a deal breaker. You can't show too much side. I do a little bit of dipping, and then I wiggle back out just to make sure his AP can't connect. Because if it does, it will connect very, very hard. And for whatever reason, he's changed targets. Maybe he's not particularly happy with how maneuverable I am at this range. You know what? That's cool with me. If you're the only target that can engage me and you don't want to fire at me, I'll just fire back and do 4k. Now, remember, there's a Fletcher in the area. We know the Fletcher is still on the point because the Hindenburg on our team, has indeed tried to capture, and it's not moving. So yes, go right back to him. And it's going to feel so ruthless if you're on the receiving end of this. But you got to understand, this is what the 155mm Mogami was made to do. So we miss with the first shot, predict that he's going to continue his turn to avoid running into the island, and I probably let him maybe a touch too much. I think I could have killed him if I would have drawn it back just a hair. Either way, we land for 3,000 and a miss. We're going to kill him. And now the team can capture C point. We've got B point. The enemy is on full retreat. Trying to manipulate islands and smoke and distance to your advantage in the Mogami is paramount. Now, some people might say, well, you could use the A hull. It's not quite as powerful as it once was. For those who don't know, the A hull of the Mogami had improved concealment. Couple that with a world where when you fired, it didn't bloom all the way out to your max gun range. There was a dark zone where you could do damage and no one could see you. It does not exist like that, so I don't recommend using the A hull. You do sacrifice a ton, you know, health, AA protection. So I highly recommend using the C hull when you get it. There's no reason to have good concealment if whenever it blooms out, it goes to the maximum gun range, right? That's just not a world we live in anymore. And these guys are on the full retreat. I am engaging. I'm going to try and keep islands in between. I don't want to be the first forward. I want to be the DPS that supports whatever push. You just can't afford to take any damage, especially as a tier 8 in a tier 10 match. And I honestly feel like, you know, this ship gets a lot of bad rap for whatever weird reason. It does probably one of the highest consistent damage in the game sustained. It should be very squishy. It feels very good. You know, velocity is very fair. Japanese have no issue with velocity. There's really only 1 or 2 lines that have better. It's easy to hit your targets. It's easy to pelt away at a battleship and a cruiser, and you just destroy enemy destroyers. We've talked about the main battery. AA is okay, subpar. It's a Japanese trait, of course, for cruisers. The torpedo systems are fantastic. They do require a stern send, so your butt's going to be hanging out a little bit in order to send, and the midship is the weak point, so you need to be careful when you use these torpedoes in that manner. However, 10 kilometers outranges the concealment of the ship, which is great. You have plenty of torpedoes per side, 8. The enemy is going to feel some fear when they see these torpedoes coming at it. It's not like the French, where maybe you have 3 or 4. You know, it's you better not miss, right? Not the case with this. You have more than enough to take out battleships if you're given an ambush opportunity, and that's another thing you have to consider. You can't ignore these torpedoes. They do exist. Early Soviet cruisers, some Germans, you know, I'm never going to get close enough for the torpedoes to be a factor. Well, that's not the case with the Japanese. So my teammate set up a nice smoke cloud, and oh, look at what we've got here. We're going to park ourselves and fire. Now, I am denying line of sight. I choose to call out my aircraft. And the aircraft, of course, shows off the big, beautiful, well, I don't know about beautiful, but the big Izumo. And I'm going to fire my HE. Now, sometimes you'll feel the urge to switch to AP. I would recommend be very conservative switching from HE to AP with inertia fuse high explosive. And the reason is it's a smaller caliber gun, 155. AP's not quite as powerful as the 203s. If you're given a perfect broadside and you know you can pen and get citadels, sure. However, the HE with inertia fuse does a ton of consistent damage. I really don't see you doing that much higher with AP. The simple fact that it can ricochet, and you're probably not going to penetrate some armor because it's just too thick for 155. It really causes me to stick with HE more often than not. But we're going to try out some AP against the Des Moines. And the Des Moines, obviously showing a perfect broadside. Really the only target you really try to use AP as a broadside cruiser. Going to be more than enough to take him out. And there's only 2 enemy battleships in my sector. Both of them pulled a Notser, ran to the island. How often do you see that where they're in such a rush to get out, they both run into an island? The Gearing, great teammate, absolutely fantastic. Just slaughtering the enemy in our Tier 8. Yes, our Tier 8 is slaughtering all these Tier 9s and Tier 10s. Ah, it's so wonderful. It is so wonderful. It looks like, though, he's going to drop to the torpedoes that the Gearing send him. Rightfully so. And we're going to get a little bit more. No, we don't. We do earn Wither. Friedrich der Grosse trying to retreat. Get back here. You can't run away from my Tier 8. We haven't really taken a lot of damage, and manipulating islands, smoke, taking out targets that are close to you, that all works. That's all what you have to do. You can't tank damage. You just can't in this thing. That's really the only glaring weakness. You could dish out all the damage you could take, though, and 10 times over. But you got to be real careful. Maneuver every shot. Make sure that you are not just completely spread wide open. Der Grosse is trying to retreat. I'm trying to keep up just barely. He is burning down a little bit and elevating the gun enough where pretty much everything's hitting superstructure or the bow, and it's doing pretty good damage. But as far as the Mogami, this has been my ship of choice for a very long time. It went through some bad times. It started out ridiculous. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. I played rank 1 season almost exclusively with this ship and pretty much got a 75-80% win rate. I think I got it in I probably lost less than 15 times. Less than 10 even for that entire rank season. It was just so ridiculous. Take out the destroyers, have great range, insane range because advanced firing training could benefit from it. Basic firing training could also help the ship. Plus, expert marksmen made the turrets traverse even quicker than they do right now. It was just an insane platform, And I'm so thankful that they're giving us some of it back. You know, we don't have the range. We definitely don't have the concealment to fire and remain undetected, because that's gone. That's dead. Rate of fire, not quite as good with basic firing training, but the overall package still terrifies destroyers, devastates them. I can't think of a single ship that I'm more afraid of in a destroyer. Dying in 2 to 3 salvos on average is not something you enjoy doing as a destroyer, so don't ever get close to this thing. And overall, she looks good too. The Japanese make some pretty attractive cruisers in my opinion. I've got the premium camo. I've had it for an extremely long time. This is the premium camo if you're curious what it looks like. I just can't recommend it more. I really can't. Mogami 155 beast. That's all she is. She's just a beast. So, this game in particular, I felt was a very good showcase of just how powerful it is and how you need to play it. We earned Witherer 3 kills, 156,000 damage. We assisted in a capture in a tier 10 match. We earned 2,630 base XP in a tier 10 match. But as long as you use islands to your advantage, assist your teammates, take out destroyers, just do DPS on enemy battleships, you're gonna have a great game. You're gonna have a great game. As far as damage is concerned, pretty much everything came from my HE shells. Between the HE damage and the fires, why not? I hope you enjoyed seeing the Mogami. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.